Hello, welcome back to Healing Mama Podcast. I am Val, aka Healing Mama. Today is episode 8. Trauma has no timeline. So recently I was having a conversation with someone, and for the other person's respect of their privacy, I won't dive into too much of it. But I will tell you, I have some trauma with this person in particular, and we were having a conversation, and while we were discussing the topic, they said, you should be over that by now. That happened years ago. And I kind of was taken back for a second. And I thought to myself, I should have been over that. That was years ago. And I responded with, hey, trauma doesn't have a timeline. I'm still working through this. I'm still healing. I still can be triggered by it. And you don't get to put a timeline on this trauma. You don't get to put a timeline on my healing and the triggers. And so immediately establishing that boundary and saying, hey, you don't get to determine the timeline. You don't get to determine how I feel or if it's expired trauma. So we will kind of get into that, kind of getting a little emotional there, sorry. So we have two quotes today. People talk about trauma as an event that happened a long time ago. But what trauma is, the imprints that the event has left on your mind and in your sensations. The discomfort you feel and the agitation you feel and the rage and the helplessness you feel right now. I love that one. The second one is whoever said that time heals all wounds has no idea about the impact of trauma. And I like that one too, but you don't have to be a victim. So I like that one in the fact that time doesn't heal wounds, right? You don't get over it because it's been 10 years or 20 years or a month or 2 months, whatever your situation is. Time doesn't heal wounds. But if we work on healing it, then we can feel it, heal it, let it go. So I want to get into the first quote. Trauma is the imprint that the event has left on your mind and in your sensation, in your heart, in your soul, in your being, the hurt. And sometimes we can take ourselves back into those situations, right? As if the trauma just happened yesterday, as if the betrayal, the hurt, the friendship, the breakup, the grief, whatever your situation is, we can take ourselves back into that exact moment, that exact feeling. And time doesn't heal it. We need to work on it in order to heal the traumas, but there's no timeline or time frame. And I'm not somebody who feels like, okay, yeah, if you sit through this program and we work on it, you're going to be healed from trauma. No, there's no time frame. We are doing this day by day, moment by moment at times. And so for somebody to sit there and tell you, hey, this happened a long time ago, you should have been over it by now, don't give them that power. And you set your boundary and you tell them, I'm entitled to feeling the pain and the triggers of this trauma. I'm working through it. It no longer holds the power over me, but it still hurts. It still stings. I am not 100% healed, and you don't get to determine when I do heal and how I should feel. And so in this conversation, when we're going, through my trauma and this person told me like, hey, you should be over it. I said, no, you don't get to determine that. That would be, let's flip the switch. And I know your traumas and your triggers. And I were to tell you, hey, that happened when you were in middle school. That happened when you were in high school. You should be over it by now. Like, I don't understand. That wouldn't be okay for me to say, right? Because I know that it still affects you to this day. I know that it still hurts you. I know that the person that you've learned to become is based on those traumas, those triggers, that pain, right? And so it stings, it imprints itself on us until we learn to work on it. And so I said, hey, I'm still working through this. And at times I could be triggered. If you do certain things that take me back to that moment, I am still triggered. And maybe I'm not reacting in the way that you would expect me to react or how you wish I would react, but this is my genuine reaction and I'm entitled to feel how I feel. And you don't get to determine whether I should feel that way or not, because this is the trauma that I've dealt with because we were in XYZ, right? And so I know that with certain people, they find it as most of the time, let me backtrack. The perpetrators of our pain most of the time don't see that they caused us pain. So they don't see it as something that is traumatic or something that you have to work on or work on healing or work on the triggers that it brings you when situations arise. They don't see that, right? Because they were the perpetrators of the pain, the trauma. And so it's easy for them to say, hey, why do you feel that way? Like it wasn't that big of a deal. And at times I wonder if they know deep down inside, it was a humongous deal. It was a huge deal, but I want to make it less on the spotlight. So I'm going to say, yeah, that was a tiny little thing. That happened years ago. You should be over it. I don't know if that's how everyone feels. I don't know if that's just an idea or a thought in my head. But let me know your thoughts. Do you feel like at times the perpetrators of our trauma, of our pain, diminish it intentionally, make you feel less than and like you're crazy for still being hurt by something that happened because they genuinely feel like you should be over it and it wasn't that big of a deal, or because they know deep down inside it was a humongous thing that they did to hurt us? And so they want to kind of brush it off and let's not remember that it wasn't that big of a deal. So let me know what you think. I personally think that it's done not intentionally. Most of the time, I feel like they don't see it as a huge issue because they weren't the ones that were going through the trauma. They aren't the ones that were going through the pain. And so it's easy for, and it shouldn't be easy, right? But it's easy for people to say, hey, get up, brush it off, you're going to be okay. You didn't go through the scrape, you didn't go through the injury that was caused. So it's easy for me, if you fall, you trip, it's easy for me to say, get up. And I don't know how you truly feel, right? Maybe you're bruised, maybe you broke a bone, maybe you're bleeding, but I can stand and tell you, hey, get up, shake it off. But you're deep down inside, you're hurting physically, emotionally, whatever the case is. And so I want to tell you today that your trauma, your feelings, your emotions are valid. There's no timeline to how long trauma should cause pain or hurt. It's really a matter of if you're working on that trauma, if you're working on those triggers. If you're not, then it's going to be something that lingers possibly for the rest of your life. And even if you are healing it, you are still entitled to feel triggered at times. Like I said, we're not perfect. We are still growing, we're learning, right? And so if something triggers you, and even if you're working through healing, it's okay to have moments where it takes you back into something. And it can be something as small as a smell. It can be something as small as a word, a song, a feeling, whatever the case is. You're entitled to feel that. You're entitled to feel like, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. Hey, this brings me back to this situation. And in the event that I had, I was mentioning, hey, what you're doing right now takes me back to the trauma that we went through. It takes me back to a feeling where I remember when you did this before, XYZ was the outcome, and I'm afraid. And having that conversation, right? It's something that I needed to have, because if I hold it in and I don't have a conversation with that person, then what happens is I'm dwelling and I am going to be in my spirit uncomfortable. I am going to feel like I am going crazy on the inside, like I'm crawling in my skin. So for me to vocalize it is what I need. And everybody could be different. But at that point in time, I needed to vocalize it. I needed to say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is where you're taking me. And so what I wished would have happened, right, is, hey, I hear you. I understand. And I can see why you feel the way that you feel. What can I do? Or what kind of compromise can we come to, or agreement can we come to help you and still get whatever it is, right? If it's not going to hurt anybody physically in any kind of way, emotionally, then I mean, let's come to a compromise. But I didn't get that. I got, you should have been over it by now. That happened a long time ago. And so learning, and at that moment, I could have snapped, right? Old Val would have been like, oh yeah, I should have learned a long time ago. F this, blah, blah, blah. I would have gone off. But I sat there and, like I said, I was taken back for a second. And I said, no, you don't get to control the narrative. You don't get to control my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, how I should feel. And so I immediately took my power back, because at that time, what they were trying to do was take my power away. So I immediately took my power back and said, no, you don't get to do that to me. And I realized when I was having this conversation and I did that, they kind of stepped back themselves and was like, oh, wow, like she just told me her trauma doesn't have an expiration and I'm not entitled to telling her how she should feel. And that person said, "You know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that you should have been over it by now because that's not my place." And so having that conversation, if I would have never had that conversation and said, "Hey, I'm triggered. This is how you're making me feel, this, that, and the other," I would have never been able to realize that this person that I'm having this conversation with does care, right? Yeah, maybe at the time they didn't say the right thing in the sense of I should have been over it, but this person is also human. They're going to make mistakes. They're learning just as much as I'm learning. So if I can remain in who I am, remain in my peace, come from a place of strength and not let others take my strength away, I get to teach somebody and I also get to teach myself. I get to teach you that you don't get to do that. And I get to teach myself that it's okay to speak up for myself and remain in my power. And so I really just want to come to you today to tell you, like, speak up for yourself, remain in your power. Don't give others the authority to take that power away from you, and know that it's okay to still feel hurt or triggered or whatever the case is by traumas that have happened to you throughout your life. I don't care if it happened yesterday. I don't care if it happened when you were 2. You are entitled to feel how you feel. All I ask of you is that when you feel ready, that you work towards that, towards healing, that you work towards healing that wound, and that you grow and that you learn from it and that you take your power back. Because when trauma occurs, I do strongly believe that we do lose a sense of ourselves. We lose a sense of our power. So in healing our traumas, I am gaining back. I will speak for myself. I am gaining back the strength, the power that I gave to others when a trauma happened. And I say, no, you no longer get to hold that power. I take it back. And so I ask you that when you are ready, that you do the same, that you work towards that goal of getting your power back and remaining in your strength and your peace, and never let anybody take that away from you. And if somebody tells you, hey, you should be over it, you tell them, no, you don't get to decide that. And you stand in that power. And I know that we are all growing and traumas might come. I feel like even as we get older, traumas will still arise and things will happen. And we will then come from a place of knowledge, but it's still life, right? We're still going to go through traumatic things. And I feel like if you use these tools now, you're better prepared for a trauma when it comes. Not that it won't hurt you, not that it'll hurt any less. It still might hurt the exact same, but we know immediately, okay, this was a traumatic event. This is what I need to do to get my power back. Versus I've spent years giving away my power to several different people, and that made me feel less and less and less and shrink into a shell of a person. And now I feel triumphant. I feel like, you know what? I got this. And I no longer care if I hurt your feelings for taking my power back. I don't, because life is about me right now. Life is about healing. I spent 30 plus years of my life giving others the authority to take away my power, take away my peace, make me feel less than, make me feel ashamed, make me feel dirty, make me feel whatever the case is. And I'm not going to do that anymore. So at this point in time, life is for me, and I take everything back, and I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. I don't care if it makes you upset. Now, in the event if we're having a conversation and you tell me, hey, Val, this, that, and the other makes me feel this way, that's a completely different kind of situation. But if I'm telling you, you don't get to do that, and you're upset because I'm telling you, you don't get to take away my peace, I could care less. And that is a phase that I'm growing into because I didn't used to be that way. And so I challenge you to do the same. And if you have thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, and you're like, hey, what was your first step? Let me know and we can talk about it. But I challenge you to, when you're ready, step into that, dive into that, to that healing, and you will feel so empowered. And I feel like as women, and I might, offend some people, particularly men, but I feel like as women, a lot of the times the world tries to take away our sense of power. Oh, you're a woman. Oh, you're Latina. Oh, you're a minority race. Oh, women don't make it. Women aren't important. It's a man's world. Oh, It's not, baby girl. It's not. It's our world, and we will take control of whatever the situations that we want. If you want something in life, call it into existence. Believe in it. Have your affirmations, and it will come. I don't care if they say it's for a man, it will be for you. If that's what you want and you ask your higher power for it, it will happen. So believe it. And I know that was kind of sidetracked, but I just felt it in my heart. So I appreciate you guys for always listening to me, and I know I can kind of go up and down, left, right, sideways, this, that, and the other, but I appreciate you guys for listening and joining and sharing and liking and commenting. And I recently had a therapist reach out to me, and she was like, I love your episodes. I love your podcasts. I love how you are transparent and this, that, and the other, right? I won't read the whole thing, but she basically reached out to me and said she would love to be a part of the podcast and be a guest on an episode. And I really want to bring her on. She has professional experience. I always tell you guys, I'm not educated in this. I didn't go to school for this. This is just life experience. And so I feel like to have a professional who is focusing on inner child trauma and healing basically reach out and say, hey, I would love to share my thoughts and my professional advice and opinions. I love that. So hopefully we can get something situated and I can have her on soon. I would love to get her on in season 2. And so we'll see. But I'm excited and I'm thrilled, and I always see doors opening that are for me and doors closing that aren't. And so I thank you all for taking the time to listen to me today. I hope you've had an amazing week. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And I send you so much love, joy, peace. And please go ahead and like, share, comment. I am on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Podcastle, Riverside platform, Apple Podcasts. And until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day. Bye.